In June of 2025, we traveled to France. The trip begins with an Uber ride in a black Toyota SUV. The driver's name is Vernon. He keeps his radio locked to a country music station. New country, to be specific. Electronic pop with cowboy hats. Preparations for the trip are smooth. We pack light with 1 suitcase and 3 backpacks. I bring along my little Martin backpacker guitar. It sticks out from my carry-on like a periscope. Through airport security and out the other side, no hitch, waiting at the gate for a flight boarding in an hour or so. Landing in Reykjavik, flight is cramped and uneventful. Earlier in the flight, I drop my book between the seats and cannot reach it, so I resort to backup reading. I have already lost my sense of time. I find a moment to write. On the evening of our arrival, we meet Vika's classmate Nadia from school days back in the former Soviet Union. Nadia lives in Paris and works as a researcher whose current subject is the artist Kandinsky. She accompanies us to a concert of Brazilian jazz, beautiful music under unpleasantly cramped and crowded conditions.
A cortina se entreabriu, eu vi que do outro lado tava por fio. Quanto tempo adormecido eu vivia esquivando qualquer desafio. Então eu tentei de novo, me sentei e busquei a paz. E por milagre me encontrei num novo cais.
After the concert, we have drinks and cheese at a sidewalk cafe where Nadia talks a great deal about herself. She tells of the 10 years of perestroika during the 1990s, when the Soviet Union transitioned to a capitalist economy, as a period of new ideas and hope that also brought with it many shortages and hardships, driving disenfranchised Russians, and particularly Russian Jews, to emigrate to Israel, Germany, and certain areas in the U.S., like Brighton Beach. Today, we set out early and make our way to a museum of outsider art in Montmartre. Intricate paintings and drawings from Iran make up half the collection, and an assortment of fantastically surreal kinetic sculptures by Gilbert Père. The drawings are astounding, microscopically etched, bearing the signature of a style I call all-overism, a neurotic energy covering every inch of surface. The surrealist sculptures and assemblages by Père could not be more different. They are dream objects come to life, claptrap animated chairs and prosthetic limbs moving under their own power like cast-off ghosts. A radio that explodes in excitement at its own announcements. A twittering birdcage, things that burst into flame. The spirit of Marcel Duchamp hides in the bones of the room, and our host, a ventriloquist of sorts, is unafraid to embody his voice. I take many videos and will compile them into a continuous montage as soon as I can and share them. They must be seen in motion. After this, a walk up many stairs toward Sacré-Cœur takes us to a museum devoted mainly to the sculptural works of Dali. We make our way back home to rest a bit before heading back out again a bit later for who knows what. Tonight we attend another musical event, a jazz trio, at a small place called the Dissident Bar. The music is just okay. A lot of self-indulgent solos are passed around, but the evening is interesting for other reasons, as a kind of unexpected hormonal theater unfolds. A pretty girl is more or less accosted by two would-be suitors, one preening and posturing, the other more subtle and sensitive. Who will win her favor? The whole thing is so primal, so completely animal in nature, hormonal. I think the girl is drawn to the sensitive guy, but maybe I just want to believe it. The point is, it's not based on reason, but purely animal in nature. They could just as well be bees. Which suitor will be the better option in terms of procreation? Who should she choose? Later, on the metro back home, there are 3 kids, little children, siblings, lined up on the subway. When she reaches her stop, a mom pops up and the 3 little kids line up behind her like ducks in a row, holding hands and follow her out. All the while, another mom sits contentedly, her 8-year-old son on her lap. They are in a place of perfect emotional completion. I am struck by how the somewhat tawdry set of maneuvers, the pickup scene at the bar, leads ultimately to such expressions of more perfect love. A love not about gratification, but devotion. Love. I aspire to this and perhaps even sometimes come close. On our return, we reconvene with Ilya, and after an alcoholic excursion to a restaurant, I remind him of a song by Bunny Wailer. I played when he and Sonia were just kids. The Conqueror. We sing it together. I play it on my little guitar, and it sounds like love. This morning, on the 3rd day of our trip, after a very long walk, we find ourselves resting in Les Jardins Tuileries. Then off we go to an exhibit on artificial intelligence. I am still processing it. Much of it is quite familiar, but the political dimension, how machine learning and object recognition reduces us to a series of classifiable signals sorted into categories, and how much of this training is conducted by invisible, underpaid people engaged in what is called microwork, is all a startling revelation. Much attention is paid to the precursors of artificial intelligence, the Jacquard loom, and early examples of mechanical automata. But in terms of generative AI, it seems Ilya and I are right there on the cutting edge. Some of the examples seem a bit lame and use the same tools he turned me on to, but to a lesser effect. Tonight, another bar, more music. In the evening, we find a club on Rue Ménilmontant with the most joyful music of the trip. crazy dance band of 7 brilliant musicians singing in multiple languages, everything from Joe Dassin to Dolly Parton's Jolene, to a reggae version of Quinn the Eskimo, to Rock the Casbah by The Clash. We yell our heads and dance our butts off. Wicked fun. Outside the club, the city is erupting. The French team Paris Saint-Germain has defeated Inter Milan and takes the UEFA champion title 5-0. There is a massive celebration that lasts throughout the night. Crowds of people in the street, cars and motorcycles racing up and down, blasting horns, with people precariously hanging out the windows. Fireworks. On the morning of the next day, there are 2 motorcycles across the street from our door. They are burned to the ground in heaps of melted plastic and scorched metal, like collapsed revelers who stayed too late at the party. On the way to the club, we notice a poster across from Père Lachaise Cemetery announcing a Fado concert in the afternoon of the next day at 3:30 p.m. in a Gothic church nearby. So we have a plan for tomorrow as well. A strange dream from last night. My creepy Uncle Dan is in the back seat of the car. Vika and I are in the front. Mo to Vika, "Do you need the car tonight?" Vika to Mo, "Why?" Mo to Vika, "Because I may want to go somewhere." Uncle Dan to himself, "Those 2 won't last very long." The next morning, we leave Elia, who is under the weather, the first inkling of illness that will follow us all as the trip unfolds. Are we wearing him out? Back at the house to rest, and then we set out toward Place Pompidou, only to be sidetracked by an enormous Sunday morning outdoor market, where we buy wine and cheese and salami and bacon and a tomato and strawberries and raspberries and beer and medicinal honey and chocolate, and head back home for lunch, to get ready for the Fado concert at 3:30. I am struck by the freedom and plenitude of this market, as opposed to the tight-assed and overpriced events that pass for outdoor markets back home, where credit cards are often not accepted and only special market dollars can be used. Vendors must be approved. No one sells fish heads. Musicians cannot use little amps or microphones, and no one sells silk underwear from Italy. We live in an impoverished place, overregulated to the point where the joie de vivre so visible here in Paris is absent. The French, like the people of Spain, Italy, and Portugal, have a way of being that finds rest in the afternoon and comes out to play late into the night, and no one gives a damn. Outside our window, I notice an architectural flourish, just a small thing that says it all. This, to me, speaks volumes of the spirit of Paris. Just a beautiful bit of ornamentation, a trifle. Paris is a city disheveled and ecstatic all in one breath. I find my language here growing in leaps and bounds. I'm speaking French in a more instinctive way, thinking not in English, but indeed not thinking at all, finding a linguistic soul, if there is such a thing. Is there a way to bring the life, the ease and spirit of France, of Spain, or Portugal, or of Italy to the States? Somehow I doubt it, but we can still live this way in our hearts and minds and habits among friends. I started chatting with one of the singers at the Fado concert, and in my broken French, where 50% is body language and me smiling as if I understand, I come very close to volunteering Vika as a special guest vocalist at the concert. She is livid, understandably. It's funny. Ilya provides a foil to her idiosyncrasies, and we laugh off her panic, knowing deep down at least part of her would have loved to do it. But ultimately it didn't happen. Maybe next time.
Só penso na guia para te ver Portugal. Com o fado que eu parti para onde conhecer. Se português eu nasci, português hei de morrer. Se português eu nasci.
Today, we leave for Bourges in a rented Peugeot, a stick-shift SUV. Not our preference, but it will have to do. Nice to be on the road. I will spend many hours behind the wheel of this oversized machine. Why the people of Europe signed on to the SUV brigade is beyond me. There are many teeny-tiny cars still unavailable in the States, but there are just as many bloated SUVs. On the highways, it makes little difference, but in the older centers of town where roads and streets are narrow, it's absurd. We stop at a highway rest stop. Rest stops are interzones like airports. They could be anywhere, in between places, neither here nor there. Halfway between Paris and Bourges, I feel a moment of transcendence from an unexpected source. The sound of 100,000 buzzing bees in perfect harmony. I could have died right then and there without regret. It's a Teenage Fan Club song called Is This Music? This band has gotten me through many difficult times. We are all sick. Ilya was feeling under the weather, and now we all are. I have a fever. Scary for me. I've been known to pass out. Along with fluish symptoms, even Vika is down and out, so we have declared it a day of total rest. I really cannot afford to be sick and must get over it quickly. In the night, I dream obsessive fever dreams. Now I am drinking tea and crashing. Vika and Ilya venture out to the market to get ramen. Not to worry, we'll be okay. Our first day in Bourges is a day of wonder. The Cathedral Saint-Étienne is a haunted Gothic palace, a dark patina of demon energy. We have dinner in an outdoor Lebanese cafe. The next day looms latent with disaster, and all I can think of is the 4-hour drive to the Dordogne. I know I must recover quickly, or the second half of the trip will be a disaster.
Ciao bella, ciao bella, ciao ciao ciao, e questo è il fiore del partigiano morto per la libertà. Ecco qua il fiore del partigiano morto per la libertà.
I spend the day alternating sweating and chills, and force myself up the next morning. I make the drive of 4 hours, weaving in and out among tractor trailers on secondary roads, and here we are. The trip is in an entirely different phase. We all have colds or flu or COVID and are dragging ourselves along trying to make the best of it. The drive from Bourges to Sarlat is one of those things I just have to do, a stiff upper lip experience that pretty much defines my life. Yesterday, I spent out of it in a feverish delirium, but it left me enough reserve energy to make the drive today without incident. If there's one thing I can do, it is to drive. We arrive, have dinner, a bottle of wine, and I am promptly informed that I do not look good. I'm sure I don't, and want nothing more than to sleep. The rest of the trip at this point is a question mark. Unlike Paris, the Dordogne is countryside, wine country, medieval towns and narrow cobblestone streets. Beautiful, but there will be no unexpected fado concerts or hipster jazz bars. All we can do, wherever and whoever we are, is to take things for what they are. Today, we return to a place we visited on our first trip to France before the kids were even born, Rocamadour, a medieval town and sanctuary built into the face of a looming cliff. Spectacular. On the return trip, we stopped for coffee and cheese in the charming French town of Souliac, where we come upon a free exhibition of the work of fashion photographer Thierry Le Gouet. I am transported by the implicit decadence of haute couture. There is a photograph that brings to mind the image of a wraith. In Rocamadour, where the sanctuary is devoted to a small statue of a black Madonna, I wonder if perhaps we misread the symbolism of the Virgin by assuming it to suggest the desexualization of women, an insinuation of male dominance, control, and possession, when in truth it is a symbol of power, a generative force, a goddess figure, not innocence, but independence and wholeness. I'm probably way off base here, but this is where my mind wanders. Why is the image of the Madonna so compelling? This morning we set off to visit 3 chateaux, but make it to only one, Château Castelnau, a castle and museum of medieval history. After demonstrations of trebuchets, crossbows, and early hand grenades and armor, I am amazed at the lengths men will go to kill each other from a distance. If women ruled the world, would the history of war merit its own museum? I wonder. The tour leaves us exhausted, and we opt for lunch in a very authentic restaurant, where no attempt is made to accommodate this squeamish tourist's predilection for the breaded and the fried. My family dines on goose liver pâtés and confits. I, on a skewer of 4 enormous wood-fired gambas, gigantic shrimp, heads and eyeballs and all, topped off with a bottle of grapey wine and a subtle gâteau aux noisettes. Back home to nap before a musical outing planned for the evening. We stumble this evening into a community association called L'Appel des Idées, the Shovel of Ideas, where a concert of 2 guitars is about to begin. There is cheap wine and beer, a community garden, a daycare center. The setting is the backyard of a house in a neighborhood in Sarlat. I open my big mouth in broken French and we are invited to jam. This is what can happen when people say, let's just do this. Let's declare a center for musical performance in our backyard. I could do this. We could all do this too. The music will begin soon. My broken French has opened a few doors on this trip. Illness continues to follow us, and not as a metaphor, but a real thing. Dry coughs that persist with sudden sweats and chills. I think back to the Tuesday earlier this week I spent in bed in Bourges, repeating a feverish mantra. Ti, to, ti, to, ti, to, ti, to. In a sequence of how many steps? 7? 8? And with what additional piece of arcana to complete the spell? No, not that, but some other thing. Again and again, it repeats, get it right, and all with the same sing-song tune playing as a background. When you were young and on your own. All this seems to drive the worst of it from me. But Ilya and Vika end up not quite as well. Ilya felt not well at all last evening and does not come with us to the little concert. It starts late and the weather turns cool and damp, and by the time it is over and the jam only still later to begin, it seems best to head back to our little room up the narrow dirt road in Sarlat. So we leave before the jam. I'm a little worried for the rest of the trip. Ilya's condition seemed improved during the day, but last night his cough was so persistent it took a 2 a.m. intervention of hot tea and much honey to put it to rest. This morning it's back. We agree to take it easy, at least until noon today, at which point we are considering a trip to the chateau homestead of Josephine Baker, who, at the height of her fame, lived in the hilly, forested, exquisite region of southern France. Instead of hitting the road right after Petit Déjeuner in our usual way, we finished the movie we started with Ilya last night upon our return from the concert, a movie Ilya has specifically chosen. He has excellent taste and zero tolerance for empty-minded thrillers. This is the 2019 Noah Baumbach film Marriage Story, with Scarlett Johansson, Adam Driver, Laura Dern, Wallace Stern, and Alan Alda. It is a study of the emotional trauma of divorce. It is interesting to see Scarlett Johansson not as a supermodel sex symbol, but as a normal person without makeup, with all the close-up to the mirror imperfections, a little older, always a little older, like a feverish mantra, how many years to get it right. The music last night was a transporting hybrid of ambient guitar and flamenco. Just 2 young men with guitars. One of them was blessed with an otherworldly instrument, a bird-like voice giving not only to words but to pure sound. I must learn to sing this way, my life's ambition. We are still sick and even discuss trying to see a doctor here, but decide we can hang in there until we get back next Wednesday. I do feel a little better. Vika keeps going no matter what, but it's Ilya who seems the sickest and opts to stay home today as Vika and I drive only a short distance to visit a water garden. Magical. I take many pictures and videos and sound recordings and will collage it all together at some point soon. There are lilies in delicate gradations of color from every part of the world. Exquisite flowers. My friend calls this the sublime geometry of nature. But we are back home now trying to rest, not very successfully. Later in the evening, we go into the medieval center of Sarlat for Vietnamese soup and a bottle of wine at a sidewalk restaurant. All restaurants are sidewalk. Every dinner is a bottle of wine. I could live this way. The restaurant is pricey, but I like my shrimp soup just fine. Vika is less convinced. Ilya lands in the middle. Today is Sunday. We drive toward Lascaux. I am mistaken in my belief that we have arranged to visit the actual caves of Lascaux. They are no longer available for public viewing. Instead, we drive through the Vézère Valley, which turns out to be one of the most important prehistoric regions in the world, with giant cliff walls hollowed out with the caves and crevices that were home to early civilizations from the Magdalenian period, about 17,000 years ago, by prehistoric people who hunted bison and reindeer and vividly depicted the animals they encountered on cave walls in polychromatic shades. The guide of our tour of the caves of the Font de Gaume leads us on a descent through deep and narrow caverns, with walls adorned with graceful paintings of bison, reindeer, horses, and a small human hand, probably that of a woman, she tells us. I feel the weight of prehistory. Our guide is charming and explains how there are many theories as to how and why these paintings were made, but the truth is that no one really knows, and we should feel free to formulate our own theories, as they are as likely to be as true as any other. I like her. She's fun, open-minded, not at all didactic, and wears Doc Martens. After the cave experience, we tour a nearby archaeological museum, have coffee and an aperitif, and head home. Tonight we will go into town for dinner. In the morning, we leave early for the 6-hour drive back to Paris. There's an end-of-trip stumble when the little apartment where we stayed upon arrival to Paris and where we plan to return for the last 2 nights before departure cancels our reservation. Vika goes into high gear and finds another place in Paris, walking distance from Notre Dame. It's a stressful moment, but it's resolved. We pack and are on the road back to Paris. Halfway to Paris, we have lunch in the near-deserted town of Chantereau, like a ghost town, spooky, strange, virtually deserted. We make it. 530 kilometers, a 6-hour trip from Travelogue to Paris. The last 20 kilometers into Paris is spent in an additional 2 hours of bumper to bumper. Returning the rental car takes another hour and a half. I am absolutely exhausted, still vibrating from the drive. But here we are, in a cramped 5th-floor apartment without windows, directly across the Seine from Notre Dame. I am crashing. But one more day in Paris and we are coming home. Our brain is mush and I am still vibrating. Here in the early morning of our final day in Paris, I am up against all the explosive potential of the 3 complex personalities undertaking this journey. We are all exhausted and on edge. Ilya goes off on his own, and Vika has already stormed angrily from a cafe. I am on full alert, exercising the kind of tense diplomacy that has kept this tenuous clan together for these 2 weeks and these 30 years. And I am exhausted. I hope my exhaustion has not leached out into the world. I do not mean to suggest that the trip has been anything less than amazing. As it unfolds on this last day, I cannot begin to adequately describe the experience. Even now, sitting on a bench, there is a woman, naked from the waist up, probably homeless and destitute, sitting on the grass among her belongings, prostrate and pendulous. To my right, a masterpiece of Gothic religious architecture. To my left, obviously not in her right mind, in a pose of supplication. She is laughing to herself, intoxicated, insane. No one pays notice. She is getting up slowly. Now she is lying down again, there under a tree, in her own world. These trips are never easy, and the contrast between moments of transcendence and of desperation are the stuff of gratitude and regret in equal measure. Toward the evening of the last day, I am pulled along on a quest to wring every last ounce of experience from our grand French excursion. atmosphere is exhaustion. I cannot speak for anyone else, but I want only to be alone. We are in the midst of what may well be the most touristy area of Paris, the streets surrounding Notre Dame. Vika leads us inside. The line of tourists moves quickly, and there we are in Notre Dame. A mass is in progress. I have been here before, but it seems different now. Cleaned and renovated since the fire, almost clinical. I feel nothing of the age and decay of the Gothic era. Notre Dame is now a particularly extravagant modern Catholic church. We stay for part of the Mass, and in the passing of the collection basket there's a credit card machine inside. Flailing tourists snap pictures even when it's forbidden. It's an ugly scene, and I cannot get out of there fast enough. Onward. More experience. More. The clock is ticking, and our time in Paris will run out. Is this relentless drive for the surface of things, oblivious to the depth of self, to the depth of things, all symptomatic of some sort of trauma? What is this relentless and tiresome drive? To pack each waking moment. We find a jazz bar, but the music starts at 9, so we duck into a happy hour tourist trap for an embarrassingly large beer and a weak cocktail. We stock up on bread and cheese for the flight home tomorrow. At 9, we go out yet again, back to the jazz bar. At this point, the term jazz bar is like a bad joke. How archaic are these things? Jazz, boogie woogie, rock and roll. The place is crammed with American tourist students. The music is generic rhythm and blues, but the singer is a good blues shouter. But it all seems so perfunctory. Hooray, I'm just tired. We are on our way home. Our Uber ride to the airport is canceled, so we take the commuter rail. We find the gate and board the plane, at last. Now we are miles above the Atlantic, approaching Iceland. Time is absent, space limitless. If the plane exploded now, our remains would scatter like seeds on fallow ground, feed for unthinkable monsters in cold and limitless depths. I'm almost finished the book I started on the first leg of our trip. It tells of the first year of a woman in a 4th-floor apartment in Tokyo, alone, raising her 3-year-old daughter without a husband. The book is The Territory of Light by Yuko Tsushima. There are deaths in this book. A 10-year-old falls 10 stories to his death, 1 story for each year of his life. There is a suicide on the train tracks that leaves a mangled corpse, bright red blood, a yellow sandal with high heels. The mother is late for work. My head hurts. I look out the window, but there is no land and no ocean. Haze. There is only time here, only space, but without location. A timeless space of where? Flying terrifies me. On the day of our return, I read of 240 people who perish in India when their plane crashes shortly after takeoff. I shudder to think of their horror. At the end of this trip, I ask this question: is this relentless drive for the surface of things, oblivious to the depth of self and to the depth of things, all symptomatic of cultural trauma? When our friend picked us up at the Providence train station last evening upon our return from France, he said he wasn't sure if we had had a good time in France because we hadn't posted anything on Facebook. It never even occurred to me to do that. I don't do Facebook. I don't trust it, and only find it symptomatic of a deeply traumatized culture. Look at me. I have friends. Look at my breakfast. I am happy. Here's what I think. Look what I can do. Now you know I am here. A key component of the cultural trauma leading us down the blackness of self-consumption is the cultivation of the celebrity self. Warhol knew all about it. In the future, everyone will be famous for 15 minutes, he said. We are conditioned by mass media to accept celebrity as emblematic of the epitome of the species, happier, more beautiful, smarter, more talented than the rest of us. It has always been a scam, but it makes money, and money is the blood of power. Early on, in the televisual age, the phrase, as seen on TV, became a marker of reality, a trademark validation of value and of thingness, because a thing is not a thing unless it is as seen on TV. Surely this is part of the trauma, that we must be as seen on TV, happy, successful, attractive, charming. The trauma whispers in our ears that not only do we deserve to be happy, but we must avoid darkness and depression at all costs, lest we harsh anyone's mellow and bring anyone down. We medicate pharmaceutically, electronically, and through obsessive-compulsive consumerism. We have a duty to wring every shred of value from every waking moment, and so seek estrangement from our truest selves. The way we suppress and deny our pain and seek constant, cheap, and easy gratification makes us aliens in our own skin. And after decades of the psychic conditioning of mass televisual media, the internet, social media, convenient shopping online, an infinitely expanding mass consensual hallucination of our own design, at last we can all have our 15 minutes of fame, every waking moment, even in our sleep. Now it is we who are as seen on TV, and all of this foisted upon a media-illiterate culture wholly unprepared for mass psychosis, entirely seduced by the illusion of self-importance, incapable of distinguishing truth from deception. Now we are giddy with artificial intelligence, liberated from the need to question, create, or even think, and ready to bury ourselves in boilerplate language and cuteness.